Hey, man, you don't mind if I play through, do you?
Sure can. Welcome to Playing Through.
Okay, everybody, welcome back to Playing Through, sponsored by Move Faster Golf. We are here with a good buddy of ours, John Wilson, attorney at law, USGA Rules Official, and we're here to talk today about the good and the bad and the ugly of golf rules, basically.
Oh, golf rules. Well, first of all, welcome back, MFers. And John, welcome. Welcome to the podcast. Appreciate you having you on. So let's get right into it. Let's talk about you and how did you get into golf? What was your big push into golf?
My big push was my grandfather. I was 13-ish about then when he first started playing with me. He was a member at Cascade down in Grand Rapids, but also Mission Hills out in Palm Springs, where the Dinah Shore was.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we'd go out there, and he was just a really good influence on me in golf. And my wife plays. She was MVP Dow High in 1988. And,
Amy.
yeah, Amy. And her brother's a teaching pro.
Nice.
And so we've been
really?
around golf our whole life. Yeah, he's out in Wyoming right now. And then my daughter plays as well. She was MVP. What is it? 2000? I don't know.
Abby.
Abby. Yeah, 2022.
Can't tell it runs in the family.
Yeah, right. But she was a regional champion individual. So, so we play a lot of golf. It's always been an interest of mine. But then I started to think about the new rules were coming out in 2019, and I thought, gosh, it'd be kind of fun. I like the rules. I'm always interested in trying to get it right.
Right.
And so I talked to our local pro, Jim Dieters, and I kind of asked him how to do this, and he said I should go to rules school. So I looked all that up, and I went to rules school, and it was an experience for sure.
Cool.
Yeah,
It sounds intimidating alone.
it is intimidating for sure. It's probably it varies between location. There's probably 30 different locations during the year, but sometimes it's 150 people, sometimes it's only 60, so I started doing that, and it just kind of snowballed from there. And I made some connections in the Michigan PGA after I went to rule school and did okay in the exam, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But did okay in the exam, and then started making some connections and did some tournaments for Michigan PGA and Golf Association of Michigan. Then I started doing a bunch of high school stuff. I've done girls and boys state finals and regionals, a ton of those. Did some college stuff, and then I did some stuff in Florida for the PGA Winter Championships. So,
Nice.
So it's funny that I talked to John about it because I remember him telling me about like a year and a half ago, whatever. So attorney at law, you took how many attempts to pass the bar exam?
I actually took 4. It was hard.
Okay.
It was hard.
So, yeah.
But
The bar exam.
The bar exam.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So for being an attorney.
Being a lawyer, yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
so,
it's very hard, obviously, with stories.
I had some issues with things going on in my life at the time, so we had it took me 4 times, but I made it. And but then the rules exam is absolutely as hard as the bar exam. It's 100 questions, multiple choice, and the first time I went to rule school, I took the test, and I was sitting next to a guy. Old guy, and we're chit-chatting, and he said, I said, this is my first time taking it, or being here and taking the test, and he says, oh, this is like my 20th time. And I said, oh, so how have you done on the test? And he goes, the highest I've ever gotten was 67. I'm like, whoa, this is a serious test. So my first time I got 84, so I'm like, wow, I feel pretty good about that,
Right.
Now, John's being modest. Tell him what is the percentage that you have to hit to pass?
So that actually is considered advanced. If you hit 75, you are already at advanced. So I was advanced already at that point.
Yeah.
But to become expert, to be able to be invited to other rule schools and to be considered for more major events, you have to have 90 out of 100.
Jeez, oh, peace.
So the second time I was actually disappointed that I didn't hit 90, but I'm like, okay, I can do this. I can see where the end is. The second time I was really mad because I got 86. I'm like, are you kidding me? And then
Quick question, John.
yeah.
When you get like any of the questions you got wrong, do you know which ones you have wrong, or is it just a total rehash?
So in the beginning, the first few times I took it, they would have, after you took the exam, they do they'd run right through the answers right there.
Okay.
And then they'd talk about why you missed this one. You could ask questions and stuff. They don't do that anymore. They do send you the ones you missed, and they give you an idea of what the question was and where to look it up and how to fix it.
Yep.
But the third time I took it, I got 97 out of 100.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, me and Dino were actually
We couldn't get a 97 together.
No, not even. We just had a episode here, a month or two ago about we touched on the rules a little bit and just reading through some of the stuff because we wanted to throw a little quiz your way.
Yeah.
it's hard when you look at a piece of paper with a different rule when you're not in the situation on the course. And when you see it, it was weird. Like, wow, this is
That would be. I mean, I would much rather go out on the course, have them doing stuff in front of you, and tell them what they're doing wrong. That whole on the paper thing and trying to visualize would be just crazy.
And they always probably give you the two answers that are probably could be correct.
Exactly. And then you got to watch and really make sure you're reading, because match play versus stroke play makes a big difference. It's funny you talk about being on the course. One of the things that I'm actually, now that I've gotten to expert level, I am invited to attend, which is where I'm leaving for Saturday. It's at TPC Sawgrass. It's what we call outdoor rules school. We have one a year, and I think they only have 40 of us that can go to that, and you have to have hit 90 already. And so I'm going to do that this coming Monday. So I'm very excited about that.
Next year we're going to see him on the tour out there.
Out there.
Yeah, I can't be on the tour because the tour and Corn Ferry only use Class A pros.
Oh, really?
But I am talking with the USGA about being on a rules committee. In fact, while I'm down there, I'll be meeting with them.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's funny. You also say about seeing things on the course. Whoops, I'm sorry. As opposed to, on paper.
Yeah.
We always talk about as rules officials, it's basically 6 hours of boredom and 30 seconds of sheer terror when they call you. When they call you in to try and figure out what's going on. So
Now, I have a quick rules question. I've always kind of wondered. I guess I don't know if, for example, if somebody calls you over, whether this is a PGA Tour event or like even a local high school, if somebody calls you over and you sign off on how to do something,
Yep.
and if it is correct, maybe you got something wrong,
Yep.
and it's incorrect, and they play and they finish this, is it because you signed off on it as a rules official? They're good. They're
Exactly.
Good. Okay, gotcha. Okay, that's what I was wondering.
Yep. If you got cover from the rules official that says this is the way I want you to do it, or this is the way you can do it, and you take his what he says and do what he says, you're not going to have any trouble.
I think in that general, just you saying that is and we see it on tour. Even the simplest little rules infractions, you think they're calling someone over.
Oh,
like, well, I know how to do that. Why? It's like
right.
So
You get that a lot. I mean, even penalty areas, and where did it enter? I mean, you can pretty much talk about that with the other guy you're playing with, and make sure where it is close enough.
Yep.
So you're right. They have so much money they're playing for. They ask for the rules official to come out all the time.
I mean, when you're playing for millions of dollars, it's like you hate to get DQ'd because you were this, little bit off. But.
Right. Well, I know, Dean, you play for a lot of money. So.
I do.
He's been losing his ass to me quite a bit.
Whatever. Well, hey, you did mention about the 2019 changes that kind of sparked you into getting into the looking at the rules. What are some of the rules in 2019 you think were maybe the best changes?
So I knew the general rules of golf. I never really had dug into the rules of golf because they used to have a decisions book that was massive, and I was always interested in looking at it because law, rules, golf, goes hand in hand. But so I really wasn't as well versed on the rules as I am now on this 2019. So I can't really say things that were modernized. But what I would say is they've really made them streamlined.
Okay.
There's only 20 rules. There's truly 25, but the last 4 and 5 rules are really offshoots of the 20.
Yep.
The 20 apply to everybody, and then there's the team events, and then the 25th rule that they just put in last year was for players with disabilities.
Okay.
So, but the first 20 rules are the ones that really apply. And it used to be there was 33 or 35, 34 or something like that. Yeah.
Well, there might be that many, but then there's so many branches off of one of those that are scenarios.
But
let's take that to the next step then. You'd said you know about knowing the old rules as much, but what about what you see now? Maybe something you could say, yeah, that could use a tweak.
Yeah, I've got a good one. I've got a good couple of those. So one of the things that just drives me bananas is that you can, if you're on the green and you can your ball's there and you want to turn it and make the line straight or however you want to do it, you can put your putter down and mark it, pick the ball up, do whatever you need to do, clean it, whatever. Your putter head, and you put it next to the ball and put it down. That's a fair marking.
Yep.
That drives me crazy. That putter head could be wiggling all over heck. You have no idea how, and not that they're doing intentionally.
I didn't know you could do the putter head.
Yeah.
I didn't even know
Yeah.
that. Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's one thing that bugs me. And I've brought it up before. One thing that bugs a very good friend of ours, my member partner, who you know, he is adamant that we should get relief from divots in the fairway. And it's hilarious.
Your head pro, Jim Dieter, says the same thing.
Well, I've got a great story about that. So anyway, of course, it's never come to fruition that divots are you get relief from them because what's a divot? When is it healed?
Yeah, it starts to get, yeah.
You know,
starting to open
is
up
that a
can of
divot, or
worms.
is that something that just a scuff mark on the fairway?
Sure.
And frankly, you know, you've hit a ball in the fair. The argument is we've hit a great drive in the fairway. We're in a divot. That's not fair to us. Well, how many times do you skank it into the woods? It hits a tree and comes out in the fairway. Should you throw it back in the woods, because that's really where it should be anyway, right? So we don't mess with divots. And so I was doing a tournament with, and it was Jim Dieters was playing in it, and this is funny. He said to his playing partners, he said, "Watch this." He said, "J-Dub, come over here." And so, because I was near him, and I came over, and he said, "Hey man, this ball's in a divot. Can I get relief from here?" Because he knew I would just blow up, and I had some few choice words, and I drove away. So
Well, and I was never, because I'm the same way. I played in a lot of tournaments or whatever. But at the same time, Jim actually brought it up. The point he said, "Quote," he said, "Hey, if I'm playing behind a group, they're playing a different golf course than I do. If they actually hit up there in a nice, you know, like a mown area that they throw, you know, a divot, and then it's like he had a point." But I was like, at the same time, it's just opening up a can of worms. I mean, it really is.
be worse, Jim, and play back in the pack like we do.
Exactly.
You know? So you're
Or
going to
hit it
better
out of the
golf.
trees, like, you know.
Exactly. So one of the things that was the 2019 language, they streamlined them, made them simpler, and they made it's almost like French. It's a rules language. You know, it's penalty area. It's not a hazard.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a bunker. It's not a trap, which is my buddy Mike White, who
Yeah.
my invitational party, he's always bugging me about, "Hey, how far to that trap up there?" And I just look at him, I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
He says, "You know what I'm talking about." And but you know, when I have had, even playing golf as long as I have, I've had some difficulty with the new rules language. The one thing that really sticks with me is pin. You know, it's a pin sheet, right?
Okay, yeah.
It's actually a flag stick or hole location. And so it drives me. I catch myself all the time.
Funny. It's funny the
doing it.
stuff that bugs John, right? Like,
Right.
oh, yeah, exactly.
Well, once you get involved in these and you become anal, you really, because you're so focused on what the language is and how to explain
Sure,
it
yeah.
at a time. But, you know, I talk about anal, but one of the things first things that they tell you at rule school is you're going to learn a whole bunch of stuff and you're going to get good at this stuff. But don't go back to your club and be that guy.
Yeah.
Don't see
sure.
things that are happening
Sure.
and say, oh, you know, just don't do it, because it gives rules officials bad name, and plus it just makes you look like a jerk. So it's funny. I have a golf trip with buddies. I have several golf trips with buddies. One of them,
Right.
two of you are sitting here.
Yep.
But I have another trip up north that I do, and they're always like, "Johnny, what do we do here?" And, and I walk over there. I'm like, "Well, here's what you're.
I'm drinking my beer. Leave me alone.
Here's what you're supposed to do." But I don't give two
Right.
flying F's about what you do. You know, you do what you want to do. We're having beer. We're having fun.
So piggybacking off like to the rules in general, like we kind of touched on this right before we got on. Rules myths.
Yeah.
We actually, was there one or two rules myths that you just see either everybody gets them wrong or they do it a totally wrong way?
Yeah, a lot of people think yellow penalty areas kind of throw people for a loop.
Yes,
As an example, they
100%.
think with the yellow penalty area, we have it at the country club a lot.
Yep.
Exactly, it's a kind of an island green-ish, and if you hit it over and it spins back in the water, as an example, you can't say, "Well, I crossed that line and I get to drop up there."
Yeah, up there. Yeah.
Because
Even if it's not no closer to the hole, you still can't drop.
exactly right. And so what you have to do is use that what's called a oh gosh, bounced on it. Anyway, so that point reference point.
Yeah,
Jeez,
right,
oh, Pete's. Pretty simple one there, John. Use that reference point and make your relief from there. But the thing is that that's one of the things that people get wrong a lot. And
They are yellow hazards can be confusing compared to red. Sometimes.
yellow penalty.
Yeah, sorry. Penalty markers.
Penalty
on, man.
areas. But yes, yellow can be very confusing at times, and frankly, it shouldn't be, because there's fewer options. You know, with red
Yeah.
penalty areas, you have the 2-club option as well. We used to have, you can go on the other side of a creek, as
Yeah.
an example. We don't have that anymore.
Reds don't have that anymore?
Nope.
So it used to be red had 5,
Yep.
yellow had 3.
Right now it's 4 and
Oh, really? Yeah, I'm glad I have Johnny on the line here. Wow, I did not know that.
yeah, so that's one of the myths. One of the other big myths, and it's not really a myth, it's just kind of a joke, is one of the guys sitting at this couch always calls for a breakfast ball.
That's USGA rules, isn't it?
No, no, it is not.
Very first one, rule one, breakfast ball.
So we had Jeff Berard. We always talk about running the tee with running the tee with tees falling out of your pockets. And it was like, I think if you don't go to the range, it's USGA rules, a breakfast ball.
No, that is not a thing.
If that's your first cut with your driver of the day, you get a breakfast ball.
But it is pretty neat. I get like I talked about. People ask me, Johnny, what do I do here, and what's the rule here? But I get friends that call me like regularly. In fact, one guy called me Saturday. You guys, Gary and Reggie,
Yeah.
always calling because they play in Houston 4 or 5 times a week.
They're calling you and asking you rules questions?
All the time. And that's
hilarious.
And they'll even have, like, if they're playing, if it's if they're on the other side, they'll have, that's not how it is, and they'll have
Getting into it?
Yeah, but so Gary and Reggie are always calling me, and just because they want to know, and it's great because they ask good questions. They tell me the scenario, I tell them what's going on, and then they start asking other offshoot questions about, well, what if it was this, and what if it was that, and so they're really trying to learn, want to do it the right way. So it's that's pretty cool.
Right way doesn't fit my game well. It's usually best way is whatever way I think is going to benefit me.
That's right.
That's how it works.
Fewest strokes.
That's right. Fewest strokes. Anytime, all the time. So we talked a little bit about the rules. We talked about, some of the stuff you've talked about, the myths and all this. How about a time maybe you have either a funny story or just a totally egregious rule break that you've seen?
Yeah, I don't. It's funny. I tried to rack my brain before we came on here because you mentioned you might want to hear some funny stories.
Yeah.
I don't really have any funny stories.
Right.
At boys regional once, I had a ball in a tree that was just up there and it couldn't get it. It couldn't come down. That's kind of interesting. And I told about Jim Dieters with his divot request. I did have one time. It was my first year. We were at the Michigan PGA Championship at the Flint Golf Club. I was just watching on hole 14. Hole 14 is you're up on a tee and it's downhill, and there's a creek that runs kind of across the fairway but diagonal. So you can hit driver and probably clear the creek, but the advantage is not that much.
Yeah.
It's not worth it. And so everybody's hitting 4-iron and they're landing almost all in the same spot.
Yeah.
So this guy comes up, and I won't say his name. He's a very prominent, very, very prominent Michigan PGA player who has gone on to play in some pretty major tours. In fact, played in the PGA Championship and was doing very, very, very well. You guys can do your research from there.
I already know it.
Anyway, but he's a very good player. And I was, after this happened, I was very sour on him, not directly, but just in my mind, I was sour on him. And we've actually turned out to be pretty good friends, and he was down in Florida and we chatted and
cool.
everything. Anyway, so he hits, I'm down there watching, and he hits his shot, and there's some people walking. I'm on the left side of the fairway. There's some people on the other side of the fairway, and they're walking across a bridge, and there's a little bit of woods up ahead of them. And I hear this thing go flying in the woods, crack, coo. And the fans look up, and they're like, what was that, So this guy comes wheeling down there, and he's like, well, did you see my ball? And I'm like, man, I heard something in those woods. I got these other 2 right here.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that's yours in there, right? He goes in there. He can't find it. And, he comes back, and he goes, oh, well, so, it had to fly in here. It couldn't have gone to the woods. It had to be in this creek. And I'm like, and the people that were walking past, they're like, oh no, dude, we heard it in the trees. And I said, I heard it in the trees. So I called Mick Kilday over, who's a very good rules official. He's been a mentor of mine. Called him over, and I explained the situation to him. And this guy is saying, no way, I hit a 4-iron that far. And he's a good player, and he can hit it away. So
Right.
it doesn't surprise me. And so Mick's like, hey, you can't assume that it's in the creek when we have information that says it's up in the woods.
The assumption is a big deal.
If you can't find it, it's not known or virtually certain. That's the language. If it's not known or virtually certain in this creek, it's lost ball. So you have to go back to the tee. He's like, F this. Rides back to the tee and then proceeds to hook it into there's woods along the left side too. Hooks it up in there and has to basically chip back out onto the fairway. And he swung his club at his cart. He is effing this, BSing this, blah, blah. Blowing up. And I'm like, first tournament ever. I'm like, what? And and he went on to make 6, and he lost the tournament by 2.
Ooh.
Yeah.
It's all your fault.
And it was all my fault,
all
exactly
your
right.
fault.
Just because you heard it in the trees and couldn't say no, it did go in there. It went right in that creek. I saw it.
One of the things they talk about is as a rules official, there are rules officials who have never made a mistake, and then there's all the other rule officials that are about to.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody's going to make a
Yeah,
mistake.
sure.
You're never going to get it right every
Yep.
time.
No.
And I there have been times where I've given a ruling and I walked away, and I'm like,
Start
that just
second
doesn't
guessing
sound
yourself,
right.
or-
And you look up the rules and you're like, oh, God, I missed that one, and you feel bad. And I tend not to go back to that player and say, oh, I screwed that up.
Yeah,
Sorry,
right,
man.
yeah.
Just you don't need to do that. But you want to get it right. I mean, we don't want to screw people. And
Yeah.
frankly, the rules are there to try and help you as much
Sure.
as
Oh,
you
definitely.
can,
Yeah,
because just basically to prevent you from screwing up.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's really
Protecting the field.
protecting the
everything
field,
else.
but also just so you don't do something that
Yeah.
is going to get you in trouble. So
There isn't a sport alive that officials don't make mistakes,
Oh,
right?
for sure.
There isn't one made yet.
Well, it's funny. I was telling the story right before we got on that last summer, one of the young girls I work with in high school had a match, and I stopped at the Midland Country Club, and from the parking lot, she was out on one of the farthest holes out, holes 6. And between the 10 minutes it took me to get from the parking lot out to see her, I seen about 7 rules violations from these high school girls, like because they just don't know, and they're
They
doing
don't
things,
I had a regional where a girl, so in the regional, we always have them sit down at the table. We say any rules issues, and one of the other girls piped up and said, "Hey, can you take a practice swing in the sand and hit the sand?" I'm like, "No, no, that's a problem." And they said, "Well, she was doing it like 5-6 times every hole." I'm like, "Oh no."
Uh-oh.
So we kind of talked it through and gave her the appropriate penalties. But the thing is, you don't want to, you feel bad.
Yeah.
You got to get it right.
Yeah.
So yeah. So the other thing about rules officials, sometimes I'm not gonna lie, there are times where you see what's going on or what's about to happen, and you just drive the other way. It's just, if they want to screw that up, and if it's brought to your attention, then we'll deal with it. But if otherwise, I'm not going to stick my nose in there.
That's funny. Well, John, we got a little printable rules. To get a little
Yeah, these are straight from the USGA side.
USGA,
Yes.
yeah. So we're actually just going to ask a few questions, just kind of talk about them, just kind of
Yep.
let listeners kind of in on some of the stuff. So, Dino, fire
Absolutely.
away.
All right. So we're going to start out with, when starting a hole, a player must play a ball from inside the teeing area, which means that any part of the ball must touch or be above any part of the teeing area. True or false?
That is true. And here's the thing about that is that the teeing area is 2 club lengths from the very front of the markers back.
Yep.
2 club lengths from, and you're measuring with the longest club in your bag, not your putter.
Yep.
Which is typically your driver,
yep.
right? So basically 2 driver's lengths from the front to the back. And this is a great story. We were talking about this actually before we came on. This is a funny one. And you learn. When I learned this at rule school, I was like, "Are you kidding me right now?"
Right. I would be like,
So you're on the tee, you smash a drive, and Dino, you got a little bit of cut on you. I know, I've seen it, and it
I call it a
Thanks.
weak slice. But
Thanks,
anyway.
John.
smokes a
Thanks,
tree
John.
about 50 yards out and comes directly back and lands at your feet, but it's in the teeing area. You can pick it up without penalty, put it back on the tee, and hit again
Without penalty.
without penalty.
So you
It's
can
penalty.
hit, it's your second shot.
your second
and
shot.
you can put it on the tee.
correct, as long as when you hit it, it returned to your
Sure.
teeing area and your teeing area.
Yes.
Yep.
Not like, which I've
Yeah,
seen
yeah.
you do, top it and it rolls down to the forward teeing area.
Yeah.
That is no longer a
Okay,
teeing
yeah,
area.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
called the
right,
general
that-
area.
yep,
at that
that's-
point.
I just walk up there and retee it. That sounds like the rule to me. Just put it back.
I cannot believe that.
I know.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it is
isn't
crazy.
It's wild, wild west in the teeing area, and even on putting green. But yeah,
Wow.
Yeah,
I'm learning here. I'm learning here.
This
today.
was the one I told you about that day. Remember, I brought it in and
I
said,
didn't
"You're
believe
never
you.
gonna."
I'm going to believe him.
I found this. I'm like, "You're never gonna believe this."
yeah.
Take
I
a
did
total.
believe
You can total hack at it and just tip it, and if it just rolls, if it stays in that teeing area, you can tee that baby back up and wail away again.
But
which
I'm like,
frankly is some reason to not be right up to the front of the teeing area, because if
Yeah.
you just tick it and it goes out, now you got to play it where it is.
I'm using
So
that
maybe
one.
maybe you come back a little bit.
Yes, yes. But I'm kidding about myself. But that's a good one I'm going to pass on to my students.
Oh.
Honestly, especially the very
Yeah.
beginners that are playing like in a tournament. Like last year, I had this young lady only had like literally a month to 6 weeks before the season even started. She was just out there kind of getting her feet wet, and that would have been a great tip. I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, scooch back a little, baby. Give yourself some room.
Right.
You never know.
I got another great tip. This one's sorry to
No.
derail the questions.
No, we love it.
Another great tip is this is useful as an example. Like on 14 at the country club, it's a pretty severe downhill.
Yep.
Let's say you're 3 feet above the point of the hole, and you hit it. And Dino, you've got heavy hands. I've seen that, and it just rips.
We like to rip on Dino.
It rips to the hole,
right in.
Heavy, big shoulders. That's all right. Bring it.
and you catch the lip of the hole, and it just shoots it. And you're all of a sudden you're rolling, and it can roll out into the fairway there.
Yeah, kind of easy on 14.
Easily, right? So your options are you obviously could play it, and it's no stroke, no penalty or anything. Play it from down there, and hopefully you get it close and tap it in or whatever. Or for a penalty stroke, you can take stroke and distance. You can take stroke and distance anywhere on the course.
Right.
Yep.
So you're back. You're taking a penalty. You're
Yep.
placing it back at that spot where you just putted, and try and putt it in.
Again.
Yeah.
So if you're putting for birdie, maybe a 3-footer from above the hole, you lip it, goes all the way off. You can go grab it, but now you're not putting for par, you're putting for bogey.
Exactly.
But it's still going to be that 3-footer, which could be very well, maybe easier, depending
Like
on
you
where
said,
it ended up.
that thing ends up in the fairway. I'll take
Some of
that
the
stroke
slope
and put it back
greens,
up
For
there.
sure, exactly. Like as an example, Kingsley. I'm a member at
yeah,
Kingsley.
exactly.
There are a lot of those greens. I
Yeah.
mean, you could get way down.
Nuts. Yeah, you
Way
could be like
down.
100 yards away.
Exactly. So I mean, it
Walk
can,
that baby back up there.
it can come in handy. So there's a tip for you.
Oh, I can use
you
all the
got,
tips.
Dino?
See, look, it just keeps coming, baby. My game's getting better just talking to John
I'm
today.
just here to help you.
Just
Dino.
helping me get better every time. All right. A player's ball lies in the general area on a path that is covered with wood chips. The player removes some chips and then properly takes relief under the abnormal course conditions relief rule at 16.1b. What is the ruling in stroke play?
So the ruling is there's no penalty there. First of all, he's on basically a cart path that's wood chips, and those wood chips are what are called loose impediments.
Yep.
Loose impediments are natural objects, twigs, wood chips, things like that. Those are loose impediments. This paper, a cup, are what are called movable obstructions, which is different. If it's not natural, there's kind of the big difference. So in this instance, they move some loose impediments. They don't move the ball, and then they're like, yeah, I just don't want to play from here. And this looks like it's a cart path, which is called an abnormal course condition. So they can take free relief from there. They take the closest point of relief, and they get one club length from that, and then they drop the ball and they play on with no penalty.
Perfect. Wow.
Nice. I'm going to find a lot of loose impediments. See, I'm
Gotta
getting
find
better.
the wooden
I've
cart
already-
paths.
Yep. I've already dropped 6 strokes just listening to John
No
today.
doubt. All right, Dino, fire off one more, and then we'll close her out.
Okay. A player lifts their ball in play on the putting green, setting it aside without intent for it to be in play. By mistake, they play it from there. What is the ruling?
So that will be the general penalty. What they've done is they've played what's called a wrong ball. That ball is not in play. They have not played from a wrong place. They have played what's called a wrong ball. Once that ball is lifted from the green, it is out of play, and it is a wrong ball. So it's interesting. There's a video of this. It's in play, out of play, in play, out of play, and at Rule School there's a whole video of this. And then any ball that is out of play is what's called a wrong ball, or like if you hit it out of bounds.
Yep.
That is now a wrong ball. Is any other balls in the world that are not your ball. So that's what's considered a wrong ball. And that ball is considered a wrong ball because it's not in play.
Yeah.
So
Wow. Dino is officially going to break 80 after this. I mean, we're literally, you've just shaved, what, you
I mean,
6
here's the one I can't wait to use. I cannot wait to use the one for the putting and have it rank off and go way far away and go pick that son of a bitch up and go move it. And like, what are you doing?
Oh, people lose their minds.
Oh, I can only imagine. You cannot do that.
Yeah.
I cannot wait.
so like you said, some holes that actually are elevated that if you do have like a front pin, lips out and it runs off, you can have a 50-yard shot after.
For sure. Oh yeah.
We had that on that one pin that we played at Bucky Cup, remember? And I can't remember which one it was. Remember, you got a couple foot past that thing. It rolled off down into that little ravine,
Yep.
ended up down in that thing, and then good luck getting back
Hole
up on
7
top.
at Kingsley, that par 5. I mean, it could go way
Yeah,
down.
that thing, holy
Yeah.
mackerel.
So here's another great one that people lose their minds on. I don't suggest you do this because it kind of upsets the groundskeeping. But as an example, so at the Midland Country Club, number 3, there's those two bunkers right off to the front there.
Yep.
Your ball is in the left bunker.
Yep.
You're like, you know what? You go over to the right bunker, take practice swings, hit the sand, no problem.
Okay.
You are not allowed to touch the sand of the bunker. Your ball is
Gotcha. Yeah, it makes sense.
So you
right,
can go over there. Now again, you're spraying sand
Now
all
you
over
just
the
added time to a round.
You've added
This is
time.
move faster
the
golf, John.
groundskeeper's mad.
This is move faster golf. Dino's going to be in every
Hey,
bunker swinging away.
I can screw up in any bunker. It don't matter if I take practice swings or not.
Well, okay, everybody, we're going to actually wrap this up, and thanks, John, for coming tonight. And we actually learned a lot. I know I did.
Oh, my gosh.
And I've played in plenty of stuff where I thought I was decent at the rules, not great, but I'm learning some stuff. And Dino's game just officially got better.
I'm telling you, 6 strokes a game right now. 6 strokes a round.
I had a
Easy.
great time, guys. It's
All right.
great to be
Thanks.
with friends.
Awesome.
Thanks
Johnny.
a bunch,
Appreciate it.
John.
All right, bye.
Bye,
guys.
MFers.
See ya. Thanks, everyone, for sticking around and hearing what we had to blab about here at Playing Through.
And remember, if you want to become an official MFer, please like and subscribe.